Good morning.
Morning.
We're learning as the schus for Shlema for Ilana Chaya Baserach. You came exactly at the right time, Rafal. We are at the bottom of Memvav Amid Aleph. Back, back to good old-fashioned kachim. Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah, second line from the bottom. Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah. Imtim Salem Tnufa Isa Zika. Right? We had the question on the top of the Amid whether Shechita is Isa Zika, meaning what makes it that the lechem and the lechem and the kivsei atzeres are considered a pair? Um, that means that they'll have the nafkaminas that if you had the two of them, that they already became attached to one another. If one of them gets lost, something happens to one, the other one's going to have to be disposed of. So if you'll say, so we had a question, first of all, is that created by shchita? And then we have even a earlier question, a threshold question is trufa, which comes before the waving of the shtei halechem, together with the kivsei atzeres. Does that create the zika? So Rabbi Yirmi asks, if you'll say it's the tnufa, the earlier tnufa, the waving of the two of them together, that makes them into a pair. Avad halechem, if the lechem gets lost, avdu kvasim, then the kvasim have to be disposed of. Avdu kvasim of the avad halechem. Anything that happens to one of them after the Zika takes place is going to, through the Tenufa, you're going to have to destroy the other one. But if you say the other way around, Tenufa does not make Zika, but rather it's going to be the Shechita that's going to make Zika. Hevi lechem ukvasim, if he brought the lechem and the kvasim v'hunfu, and he did the Tenufa, but it wasn't Isa Zika yet, they're not a pair. And the lechem got lost. The heavy lechem acha, and therefore you have to replace it with another lechem. That's not a problem because they haven't been made yet into a pair. You did a tnuf already, but they haven't been made into a pair. So if one is lost, the other one could be replaced. Oisa halechem, this new lechem that's being used to replace the original one. Ton tnufa ain't ton tnufa. Does it need tnufa or does it not need tnufa? So the Gemara explains what the question is. That means, and what it's really going to come down to, the way I would put it is the tnufa part of the avodah that you're doing for the kvasim? Is it an earlier avodah that you're doing? And then one of the way the tnufa works is that it has to be done together with the lechem. But it's not a requirement that lechem itself needs tnufa, but rather the carbon needs tnufa. The kivsei atzeres are the ones that need tnufa. They need the avodah of tnufa done with them. So in that case, you would say, if that was the case, like the way we just described it, so you already did tnufa for the kivsei atzeres, and these new lechem don't need tnufa. It's because there's no requirement on them to do tnufa. Or do you say no? Each one, the Torah requires both the lechem and the kivsei atzeres, each having their own individual requirement of tenufa. So the Gemara explains it. Avdu, and we're going to do it to sort of starting further back. Avdu kvasim loiti bayalach devadivay tenufa. Certainly, if the kvasim got lost and you have to replace the kvasim, which you could do, you would need a new tenufa l'chkuliyama. No one thinks that the tenufa is done, the tenufa of the kvasim is done for the purpose of the lechem. There's no such thing. There's no seder of the avodah of the lechem. The lechem has tenufa and then it gets eaten. There's nothing to be done with it. So it's not part of a seder avodah. You could think that the tenufa is being done for the purpose of the lechem. So if the kvasim are lost, you're certainly going to have to do it to new tenufa. Kiti bayalach avad alechem. V'alibet de benanas loiti bayalach. So we had the machlekes in the Mishnah between Rabbi Kiva and Ben Nanas, and Rabbi Nanas had said the Amar Kvasim Ikar. He said that you can't have the lechem without the kvasim, but you could have the kvasim without the lechem. So according to him, that you could have the kvasim without the lechem. So l'chayra we would say he would say that you're going to need that. You wouldn't have to do the tnufa for the replacement lechem. Because like this, we'd say the svara that the main thing is the kvasim, and the tnufa of both of the lechem was just for the purpose of the kvasim. Kiti ba lechem liba de amar lechem ikar. According to Rabbi Kiva, it says lechem ikar. Then we finally have the question: My kivin the lechem ikar by tnufa. Do we say that lechem has its own necessity of tnufa? Or like we said, what is the matirim of this whole enterprise over here? The only thing that has matirim, that has avoidus, is the kvasim. So the tenufa was done for purposes of it was one of the sequence of the series of matirim, of avoidus that are done to be mata the carbon, and the tenufa is another one of those. But once it was done already, even though you now have a new lechem, there's no need to redo it because the kvasim already got their tnufa. So tomorrow teku, we leave it as a question. Amalei Abai l'Rava. Why ask Rava? My shnei kvasim the mekachi lechem akvi. When you bring on Shavuos, we've said there are really two groups of karbanos, right? We said you bring the musafim. And in addition, you have the shnei kivsei atzeres, which are shlamim, and you also have the lechem. I'm sorry, not the lechem. The par and the elim and the kvasim, the shiva kvasim that are brought together with the kivsei atzeres and the lechem. They're part of that group. So Rabbi asked Rava, why is it that the Shnei Kvasim are Makadish the Lechem, and they're Ma'akev, according to at least, according to who
Bananas.
Bananas, right? According to Bananas, that the Kivsei Atzeres are Ma'akev. So the shnei kvasim are ma'akev from being the lechem. Shiva kvasim u'parva elim delay mekachi lechem. They don't cause the lechem to become kadosh kedushas haguf, and they're not ma'akev the lechem. They're brought on their own, but the Torah mentions them both in the parsha. Why wouldn't they all apply? Amalei hayav v'husku zel zeh betnufa. He says, which, I guess I was incorrect. I guess I got mixed up yesterday. We were talking about lifting the seven kvasim. It wasn't referring to the seven kvasim. It was just the shnei kvasim that need tenufa. So since you do tenufa of just the two kvasim together with the lechem, so that's why they have a special bond that the shnei kvasim are going to be ma'akev the lechem, and they're going to be mekadosh the lechem and yeshechta.
At the same time?
What do you mean at the same time?
Shnei kvasim.
Doing what? The tnufa?
Yeah.
You're still fascinated by that. I don't
know.
A
little bit.
maybe it's possible. I guess that it's the two kvasim. I guess it's more feasible than seven. You just need like a medium. You don't need like Lou Ferrigno for those of us from the 70s.
Ferrigno, that beats me.
That was the original Incredible Hulk. I see Lizzie's looking with sympathy.
Yes.
Yeah. Frek the Gemara. So maybe so you want to say that it depends on what gives this quality that the kvasim, the shnei kvasim are makadesh and ma'akev, is the fact that they have tenufa together with the lechem. Frek the Gemara of Hari Toida. There are three things that have lechem brought with them. So one of them is the kivsei atzeres with the shnei kvasim, but another one is taida. When a person brings a carbon taida, he brings 40 loaves of bread together with his shlamim type of carbon. Very taida delayhus guzel is betnufa. There's no by taida. There's no din that the 40 loaves have a din tenufa together with the animal, with the carbon umekachu ma'akva, and nevertheless they are considered to be that when you bring the carbon, that is Makadish, the lachmei toida, and ma'akev. If you don't have it, then you can't bring the lachmei toida. No? So you see that it's not the tnufa together that makes them have a din of kiddush and ikov, because by toida, where there is no din of tnufa, there is kiddush and ikov. Ella ketoida. So rather the Gemara says, oh, I'll bring you a different factor that is what causes the kiddush and the ikov by the shnei kifshei atzeres as opposed to the seven kvasim. Ma toida shlomim afachanami shlomim. The kifshei atzeres are both shlomim, and the toida is shlom. So just like the toida is mekadosh ma'akev, the kifshei atzeres is mekadosh ma'akev, as opposed to the shiva kvasim that are oilers. Those are not mekadosh ma'akev. So come on, me does dummy. Hasam leka zachem achrin b'adei. Hachadik is vachem achrin b'adei. Likfish uhani bahani. What says? How could you bring a raya from Torah to say that just a shlomim itself is enough to be mekadosh ma'akev? Over there was no other carbons. That's why the shlomim itself could be mekadosh ma'akev. And maybe over here, even though shnei kifsei atzeres are shlomim like the Torah, but the other shiva kvasim also needed in order to be mekadosh ma'akev. So we learn it from Ayel Nazir. Ma Ayel Nazir. Avagav de ikas v'achem achrina. The Ayel that's brought by a Nazir. Ayel for Shlomim. And there are other karbanis that are brought. There's, I think, an Ayla and a Chatas. Shlomim hu de Mekachi. It's just the Shlomim, just the Ayel Nazir that is Mekadesh and Ma'akev on the Lechem, the two types of matzahs that are brought. The two types of minchas that are brought together with the ayil nazir, just the ayil shlamim, not the others. Hachanami loishno. Where do we take a know by the ayil of the nazir that's what mekadesh and ma'akev the matzahs that come along with it? The Tanya, v'esa ayil yasa zevach shlamim Hashem al salam matzahs. You should make the ayil a zevach shlamim Hashem on the salam matzahs. Malamish asal b'choy v'la'ayil. You see from the fact that the Torah says, puts them together. It says you should make the zevach shlomim Lashem together with the salmatzas, so that salmatzas, the ayil shlam is what makes the salmatzas kaddish. Ushchitas ayin mekadshim. It's the shchita of the ayil that's mekadish. Lefikach shachtu shaloi lishma loy kadshu halechem. Therefore, if you shech this is the end of that. Brisa, if you were to shecht the ayil nazir shaloi lishma, which, as we know, it's the classic first mishnah of Zvachim, that when you shecht a carbon other than a chatas or pesach shaloi lishma, it's kosher, but it's loy al ba'alim shem chayva. So since this ayil nazir is loy al ba'alim shem chayva, it's not able to be mekadesh the matzahs that come along with it. Tanur. So that's going to be the raya. We see the ayil nazir is mekadesh the lechem. It's because it's a shlam, even though there are other karbanos that come along with it. So the same thing over here, just the shnei kifsei atzeres that are shlamim are mekadesh the lechem, and not the other sheva kvasim or the parva ayil for that matter. Tanur Rabban. Shtei halechem haboyes b'fnei atzma. According to Rabbi Akiva, that says in the Mishnah that you can bring the lechem without the karbanis, without the kifsei atzeres. When in that case, so you bring the lechem on their own. Yunfu, you do tnufa for them. That's the whole avoid. That's the only thing to be done with them. But to uber tzuras, and then you have to wait with them for the next day, where they lose their ability. They're no longer kosher because it's past the zman. You're supposed to really eat the chalas of the shtei halechem. The kainim are supposed to eat them on Shavuos, on that day. But rather, you wait for the next day when they lose their when it's already lina. And then you burn them. As we're going to see, a shtei halechem that's brought without the kifsei atzeres is not eligible to be eaten like a normal kifsei, a normal shtei halechem. If these shtei halechem midaraisa are really able to be eaten lichlenu, why don't you eat them? And if midaraisa they're not able to be eaten, Burn them right away. What is this idea that you wait for the next day? So we're gonna go through why the reasons would be that you would think it's either lachila ashin or that's going to be the big machlekes. Is it lachila ashin or l'sreifa ashin? And we're going to go through what the reasons. Amar Rabba, lo'ilom lachila ashin. Really, midaraisa, this kifsei, this shtei halechem that's coming by itself. Really, midaraisa is a full-fledged kosher shtei halechem that could be eaten by the kahanim. But gzeir Hashem yizdamulahen kvasam l'shana haba. But midarabbanan they were geyser. Maybe the next year they will have the kvasim, and they'll be able to bring both of them. Even according to Rabbi Kiva, if you have kvasim, you have to do kvasim together with the shtei lechem. Last year, didn't we eat the lechem, the shtei lechem, without the kivsei atzeres? Achshav nami nechel. Well, let's first, what do we have to wait for the kivsei atzeres? We'll do the lechem, we'll be mainif the lechem and eat it just like we did last year. They're not recognizing the fact, the reason why they were able to do the lechem on its own last year was because there was no kvasim. When there was no kvasim, shar yanafshayu. Then the lechem was able to be matter itself. But when there are kvasim, it needs the kvasim to be matter. But now that they're kvasim, you need the sham. So it's a derabanan, even though midaraisa could be eaten. Midarabanan, they were guys you shouldn't eat the lechem, the shtei lechem that's brought by itself. Amar Rabba, mina aminala. Where do I know this that it's lachila asin? Means it was saying what the zera is, that it's also to eat it. But where does he get the first part, the first part of the cheshbon, that midaraisa it could be eaten, the shtei lechem brought by itself could be eaten. The Tanan, Amr Yehuda, Heid ben Bukhri biyavna. We've had this before. There's a fascinating insight into the psychology of the kehanim. He was made. Yeah, kol kohen sheshokel ein echayta. A kohen that gives the machzas hashekel is not doing an avera, even though, what does Rashi say? Kehanim are not counted, so therefore they're not included in the machzas hashekel. But it's not an iser. If they want, they can give. Amalei Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai loy. You got it backwards. Ki ella kol kohen she'ein shekel chayta. A kohen who does not give a shekel is a chayta. Even though they're not included in theory from the pasuk, he holds that whoever's roy to be counted, even though they're not actually counted, it means he says the chol roy lift could come. The hainu ben kaf shana l'mayla. When the Torah said kol oivel apikudim, it's not excluding the Levium. It's excluding those that are the wrong age. So kohen really is included in the machzas hashekel. And if he doesn't do so, he's chayta. But so why would the kohen not give the machzas hashekel if they're mechayiv to do so? El shekohen darsha mikras el atzman. They are they're incentivized. They have a little bit of a what do you call it? A bias to say they're in the giyas, that they're going to say that they don't have to give a machzas shekel. They're going to make this kruma drasha. It says in the chol minchas kohen kol tia, the rule is that any mincha that's brought by a kohen, a regular mincha, is eaten by the kahanim. But a kohen who brings a mincha gets burnt on the mizbeach like an oila. Kol minchas kohen kol tia should be destroyed. Loy teichel, it shouldn't be eaten. If we were to give the machzas shekel, then we'd be contributing to all these different things, these different minchas, the aimer and the shtei lechem, the lechem panim. They become partially from our money. Heich nechalin, and they're supposed to be eaten, and they won't be able to be eaten. So therefore, very piously, they're saying we can't give them money because we're going to ruin these karbanos. Now, which is untrue, but they're of course they're not going to passel these things by giving the machzas shekel. That's not correct. But what is even their cheshbon? Hani shtei halechem hechidami. They're saying that the shtei halechem that's supposed to be eaten won't be able to be eaten because we've contributed to it. Which shtei lechem are we talking about? Ilema bois imazevach. If you're talking about a shtei lechem that comes together like in a regular year, where there is the kivsei atzeres, atu toida v'lachma v'yimel navdi kehanim v'achilu. Certainly, the Kehanim didn't ask that the Taida, which also has lechem with it, that there's a Taida of the Tzibur, and that is not going to be a problem. That they never thought was going to be a problem. That you're not going to be able to eat it because they gave money for it, because that since it's going together with a carbon, that's not called a mincha. That they never would have dreamt that that's called a mincha that the kehanim are not allowed to eat. It's only something that's a mincha by itself, not a mincha that comes together with a carbon. So the same thing if you have the kivsei atzeres together with the shtei halechem, the kehanim would have never thought that it should be aser because the din that of a minchas kayin is kolum. So it must be talking about the kivsei atzeres. I'm sorry, the lechem of the shtei lechem of Shavuos, they're going on their own, whether you didn't have kivsei atzeres with them. Tani, hayech nechol, and how could they be eaten? Amal achila asin. So you see that midaraisa they're really supposed to be eaten. For the fact that Kehanim are saying that they're going to be awesome. So it's a little interesting to me that Lamaisa, the Kehanim are saying, they're coming with a taina, that if we're going to give money, we're going to passel this for achila, because midaraisa it's roy lachila. But if there's a takanas chachamim that it's not eaten, what are they worried about? They're saying we're going to answer it with our money that we're given, but it's anyway the chacham already answered it. So what is it negaya? Amalei Abaya. So Abaya answers this question. It's talking about what's going together with the zevach. So this udekakashalach mitoida v'lachma. You asked if it's boisem hazevach. We already know that toida together with lachma wasn't included, because obviously something that comes with a carbon is not included. We'd never think that it would become a mincha kalul. Says no, lachmi toida is a specific reason. Lachmi toida ikri mincha, shtei lechem ikri mincha. Because lachmi toida are not called a mincha. In order for something to be a mincha kalul, a mincha's kain that becomes asur lachil, it has to be a mincha. And the lachmi toida never called a mincha. But the shtei lechem is called a mincha. Shenemer ba'kricha mincha chadash al Hashem. Since we call it a mincha, that's what the Kehanim thought that maybe even if it's brought together with the kivsei atzeres, it's going to be included in the iser of kehanim of a mincha of a kohen, since it has that nomenclature that it's called a mincha. Really, I think he disagrees with Rabbah. He says that this kivsei atzeres, that you don't have the kivsei atzeres and you just bring the shtei halechem, it's really midaraisa, it's sreifa. So if that was the case, we asked, why is it too abra to ras, and why don't you burn it right away? Because we can't burn kachim on Yom Tov. Kachim that became puzzle, we wait till the following day to burn it. We don't burn it on Yom Tov, because it's just burning the puzzle of kachim is just an essay, and the issue of burning something on Yom Tov is essay and a lois essay. Amalei Abaya midami hasam la mitzvasam b'kach hachad mitzvasam b'kach l'serfinu. Well, says that's how could you compare that to the din of that we don't burn pasul karbanos on Yom Tov? That's a carbon, like let's say it was yaitza or something happened, became tamei, so you have to burn it. Went off the rails, so you have to burn it. So that you can't do on Yom Tov. But over here, this is something that you're supposed to bring it. Right? You don't have a kivsei atzeres, you don't have the kivsei atzeres, but you are supposed to bring the lechem. But the lechem is not roy to be eaten, so therefore it has to be burnt. Its din is to be burnt. It's not that something went wrong. Right? There are plenty of things that we burn on Yom Kippur because that's their avodah. So this carbon's avodah. Elam Rav Yosef, Yosef says a different thing. The reason is taka, like we said before, that it's it's really roy lachila, and we're just making zera that maybe next year they're going to get confused, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to bring the lechem before the kvasim. Amle abaya tenech kol zman hakavason.
It's
That's
a different.
did I skip?
No, I'm just saying. It's not. We're saying some. We're not saying similar to what we said before. Now we're saying that the reason why we don't burn it right. We're talking about why we don't burn it right away. Now, really, it's supposed to be burned, and the reason we don't burn it right away is because in case it's not customer found later in the
I'm
day.
sorry. I mixed it up. I said it wrong. Hello, Rabbi Yosef. The issue is that if we're going to allow them to eat the lechem, the shtei lechem, you might the reason why you bring the shtei lechem and you're eating them is because there's no kifsei atzeres. What happens if later in the day they find two kifsei atzeres and you already ate the shtei lechem, but you're really supposed to be mater with the kifsei atzeres? So wait till the last minute, see if you get the kifsei atzeres, and then you'll be able to do it properly. But if you can't, then you'll burn it.
According to Rabbi Yosef is the one who says l'srei Astian. The only question here is why are we waiting? Why aren't we burning it right away?
Sorry. Yeah, right. He holds that l'srei Astian. If that's the case, why don't you do it right away? Because maybe you'll be able to save it. Maybe you'll be able to bring it properly. This is only as long as you could still be makravit. We're saying that you wait till the following day when it's going to be an iserlina, but you have to do that because we want to wait and see. Maybe you could save this shtei alechem. But once the zman hakrava is gone, meaning after the tamid shalbein arbayim, the tamid of the afternoon, after that point, you're no longer able to bring karbanos. But it's still the same day. So at least don't wait till the following day when it's lina. Just do it that day when you can no longer save it. Taka means not to wait till the following day, but just wait till after the mincha, the tamid shel ben arbayim is brought, when you can no longer be mark of it, and that's taka when you burn the shtei lechem. Rava Amar la'achila ashin. Rava says no, it's la'achila ashin, not like Rav Yosef had said. It's midaraisa, it's la'achila. Ugzeira mishum derabba, and the gzeira is taka like Rabba said, that we're worried about later on making a mistake the following year, but if you allowed it to be eaten on its own, but it's not his reasoning that he had said of why it's la'achila asyan, because we had gotten stuck with the kehanim. We had a kasha on that svara. El mikra, he learns it from a pasuk that it's la'achila asyan. V'amar Rava mino aminalo. Where does Rava? What's the pasuk that Rava uses? D'chsiv mishraseichem taviu lechem tnufa bikurim l'Hashem. The Torah uses the lechem, the shtei lechem. He uses the lashon of bikurim on them. Ma bikurim b'fnei atzman, af shtei lechem b'fnei atzman. That just like the bikurim can be brought on their own, the shtei lechem are brought on their own. Umino ma bikurim lachila, af shtei lechem nami lachila. Just like the bikurim are eaten by the bailim, so too these are also able to be eaten. Let's just get started a little bit on the next domin. Hanrabban, kivtzei atzeres, ein mekachin etz alechem ela b'shchita. The kivtzei atzeres are not mekadesh the lechem, meaning now we're not talking about to be ma'akev that you could. We were talking about on the first Ahmed, we were talking about this din of zika, whether zika comes from tnufa or comes from shchita. Now we're talking about a different din. We're talking about that the lechem. You buy the lechem, and they say we want this lechem to be eventually to be the shtei lechem for Shavuos, but it doesn't get kedushas haguf until you bring the kivtzei atzeres. So the kivtzei atzeres ein mekachin as lechem ela b'shchita. That only happens when you do the the shechita of the kifsei atzeres, then the shtei lechem are going to become kaddish kedusha zaguf. Ketzah shachtan lishman v'zarek daman lishman kedusha lechem. If you did everything properly with the kifsei atzeres, then the lechem is going to become kaddish. Shachtan shaloi lishman v'zarek daman shaloi lishman loy kaddish lechem. If you shechted it shaloi lishman and you zarek the dam of the kifsei atzeres shaloi lishman, then the lechem does not get a din of kedusha saguf, even though it's been set aside as the shtei lechem, and it's not going to be able to use for something else, but it doesn't get a din of kedusha saguf, which would be, for example, the gabi mila. It would be nafkaminas, if, as we're going to see in the Gemara, if you want to be paidit, you can't be paidit something that has kedusha saguf. Shachdan lishman v'zarg daman shaloi lishman. What if you split it? You shechted it lishma, and then you dezrikas dam shaloi lishman. Halechem kaddish ve'ena kaddish. Divir Rebbe. Rebbe says there's a din of kaddish ve'ena kaddish. The Gemara is going to explain shortly what the ramifications of kaddish ve'ena kaddish, of partially kaddish is. Rav Shimon says no, it's not even. It's not kaddish ve'ena kaddish. It's entirely not kaddish unless you had the zrika lishman as well. My time of the Rebbe. Why does Rebbe say it's lishman? It's lishman. It's kaddish ve'ena kaddish. D'chsiv v'sa'ayil yasa zevach shlom Hashem al sal hamatzas. The Torah says you should make the ayil as a zevach shlom Hashem together with the sal hamatzas. So remember the shechita mekacha. When it says use the lashon of zevach shlomim, that's a reference to the shechita. And that's saying with the shechita, it becomes kaddish, but it's not fully kaddish until you do the entire avodah. Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon yaseh achi yaseh kalatzi Yosef. According to Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon, it says it's ayil yaseh, even though it says zevach, but it says yaseh. That means you have to do all of the avodas, all the way from shechita to zrika, have to be done properly in order to be mekadesh the shtei lechem. V'Rebbe nami yaksiv yaseh. According to Rebbe, it also says yaseh. Iksiv zevach yaseh kedgam. He says if it would have said zevach yaseh, then the yaseh would be modifying and saying you have to do the till the zrika. Hashdichsiv yaseh zevach, but ma yaseh bezvicha. Since it says yaseh zevach, that means it's pointing toward the zvicha that you need. According to him, the zvicha itself is enough to make the kifsei the shtei lechem kaddish. What does he do with the zevach? That's for a different din of Rabbi Yochanan. Hakol moedim shetzarich shehei lechem b'shas shechita. Everyone agrees that this lechem has to be in existence. It has to already be baked at the time of shechita in order for it to be mekudesh. It obviously can't be mekadesh something that doesn't exist. Okay, I think we'll leave my kaddish ve'ena kaddish. It's a complicated cheshbon for Matzah Shabbos, and then Matzah Shabbos I'm probably going to have to torture you a little bit